will be printed off at home and it will just be sent there. So it will be a drop off. I don't do that. I rarely go to the post office for anything. Mail it. Everything gets Amazon.
Ready for this meeting?
All right, I'd like to welcome everyone this evening to our Monday, December 19th, 2022 Lindon City Council meeting here in our chambers. Thank you for being here, everyone, as well as those that are watching online. To start our meeting, we will first introduce myself, Carolyn Lundberg, Mayor Lundberg. I am conducting this evening. We will begin with an invocation offered by Council Member Daryl Magleby, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Nate Church. In that order, thank you.
Our most gracious Father in heaven, as we approach thee this evening, we are indeed grateful for the many blessings that are bestowed upon us. We're grateful for this wonderful country that we live in, and for this beautiful city, and the privileges that we have as members of this community. We're grateful, Father, for the opportunity to meet tonight, and pray that we might have thy Spirit in attendance, that the discussions that we have will be kind and considerate to one another's feelings, and that we might do what we can to make appropriate decisions on behalf of the city. We pray that as we move towards Christmas, that we might think of thy Son, Jesus Christ, and be grateful for his birth and for the celebration of this season. And we pray and ask for these blessings in the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much for those words and your invocation, Daryl. And Nate, good job. You remembered your scouting there a little bit. Okay, now that we are ready to call to order the meeting, I will take a roll call, and I'll start here on my left.
Jake Hoyt, present.
Van Broderick, present.
Randy Powell, present.
Carolyn Lundberg, present.
Daryl Magleby, present.
Mike Venturi, present.
Hey, we are all in attendance this evening, which is fantastic, this close to the holiday. So we'll move on now to item number 2. We are very excited to have some acknowledgements in our presentations tonight. We have some special employee recognition awards for Heather Hartman, Shelley Church, and Lauren Best. And I will turn this over to our City Administrator, Adam Cowie.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you all three to come up here. Is that okay? Can you come up together?
Green team.
Right up here so we can show you off better. So as you're aware, Council, Mayor and Council, these are comments that we receive on a quarterly basis from other coworkers. And let me read a few of these. We'll start with Heather. And let me back up a little bit. Typically, we've just chosen one individual each quarter. We've had to play catch up a few times, but we had some really excellent comments and some efforts that were made by these employees that are really outstanding, I think you'll see. So a few comments that were submitted about Heather Hartman. She's our utility billing clerk. She has helped the city discover and recoup literally tens of thousands of dollars by auditing utility accounts for accuracy and correcting some past billing errors or meter reading mistakes. Her efforts have been substantial. She has since updated and modernized the utility shutoff process, utilizing Everbridge notifications to inform customers of pending shutoffs and assisting to update utility building ordinances. Other comments, she's very friendly, willing, fun, compassionate with customers, but not a pushover. She's patient, takes the time to help residents understand their bill and find solutions. She's always looking for ways to improve, makes everyone around her happy. And I thought this was great. Somebody said, without her efforts, the city would be poorer, slower, and less efficient. So thank you, Heather. Some comments about Shelley Church. Shelley works in our community development office, and she's been in other locations. She's worked at the front desk here at the city center and then also at Public Works. And so she's become an expert in many things. So she goes above and beyond to help customers and always has a great attitude. Shelley strives to always find ways to get answers back to a citizen, contractor, or business owners as quickly as she can. She's really the heart of our department. She exceeds in giving a positive reputation to our department. Very kind to the residents and developers that comes in, truly cares about her coworkers and their interests, their lives, their families. Another comment, she's constantly striving to learn more about zoning and building so that she can be a better help to residents. Thank you. And last we have Lauren Best. Lauren works at our front desk here. She has, how many months have you been with us? 3 months. This was awesome. So this comment from a coworker, she tries her hardest to help customers and is always very sweet. Just this week, a little old man came in to see if someone could help him lift his leaves in the dumpster because they were too tall. She went out of her way after work, took him some leaf bags, and she and a friend, along with their kids, helped him bag up all of his leaves. That is awesome customer service. So thank you, all three of you.
All right, big round of applause for all three.
Got a $50 gift certificate of their choosing for each of them. Thank you so much.
We are so grateful. You guys are the heart of our community and making our lives so much better all around in so many ways. And thank you for making the family, the Lindon employee family, such a great place to be too. And I'd like to welcome any other council members to acknowledge you in any way as well.
Each of you just brings such great qualities to Lindon City, and I appreciate your uniqueness that just makes our city even a better place. So thank you.
And did we get a picture?
We did. We went and did it ahead of time, so we're good.
It's good because we want to give you a plug on social. Their families that have come tonight to also celebrate with them, and it is so deserving. We're so, how wonderful to share this quarterly recognition for you all.
Mayor, my experience has been the same. Every time I walk in, they're always so kind to greet you and pleasant, and I see them interact with citizens, and it makes me proud. It makes me feel good to know that we're in such good hands, and our citizens are blessed to have you good folks. So thank you.
All right. All right. Without any other comments or announcements, we'll move to item number 3, which is the open session for public comment. This is where we invite anyone to address the council on an item on the agenda that is not already on the agenda for a few moments, if you wish. All right, go ahead and take a seat here and state your name, please.
Lincoln Jacobs. I received approval last week from the county to put a memorial bench on the Murdoch Canal Trail. It's going to be just opposite about center where the temple is. I know we're developing along the west side, and there's going to be a couple of pullouts, and there's going to be a couple of benches there. This hopefully will go in, pour in March. Given we've got approval, I need to get the permissions, permitting, but hopefully pour in March, get the bench in April. It's a memorial bench, but my purpose is more about providing some place for people to stop and get off the path. We've had one minor accident along there where groups gather to meet and bikers come along. Those bikers, they're pesky. I don't understand them. But they don't slow down. Well, people will just walk along and stop. And with the temple being there, everybody's got burdens. Everybody used that trail, carrying their burdens when they stop and see the temple. It's an opportunity to let some tears fall and just contemplate, and you stop right in the middle. So the other thought I had is it might be, since we're going to be the city that's going to be called if there is an accident, it might be worthwhile for us to put some signs up there. If you think about Bridal Veil Falls, They actually have signs that say, get off, walk your bike. I don't tend to get off, but I do stop and just kind of push my bike through. And I don't know what we might want to do there. People that are just experiencing an emotional moment probably won't pay attention to the signs, but the church groups that come along, if we had signage, they might be willing to pay more attention to, hey, let's get our group off the path. During construction, this is going to be happening. I don't know how quickly they're going to develop that west side, but signs sooner than later might be valuable, might be worth our time to consider. The other item I want to say is I have close friends that work with the American Fork City Council, that work with the Lehigh City Council, and as we get together and we talk, and as they talk about their city employees, and I'm including you guys over there as well, we share our stories, and they always say, wow, you guys have it the best in Lindon City. And I want to make sure you guys hear a good Merry Christmas. Thank you for being part of the best. You guys over there as well, the city employees, love coming and hearing you guys talk. Love the way we work together as a team. That's what impresses me the most. Merry Christmas, and thank you.
Thank you, Lincoln.
For what you're doing to organize for that memorial bench and with the private donations, that'll be lovely. And any updates on so he says his will be about April. Do we have any updates on the city's benches?
I don't think
Timeline?
we've bid that out yet, and so we're in process, so.
Our benches are ordered, and after the first year, we'll get some bids on building the pads and construction.
All right, wonderful. Any other public comment at this time? All right. Please go ahead and take a seat. Welcome and state your name. Thank you.
It's on. Push it.
You just turned it
green.
off. Here you go.
My name's Brielle Finnis, and I'm Leah's little sister. And I was wondering, I'm here to ask if Lindon City could install a dog park next to the Oak Canyon Junior High tennis court or Lindon City's park. Because one time I was playing tennis with my parents in the tennis court, and we saw an unleashed dog away from their owner barking and growling. We had our dogs with us, but ours were leashed. I realized that if there was a designated spot all dogs could play safely, this would be best for pets and pet owners. My brother lives in Provo, where his city has a dog park. He meets up with his other dog owners for socialization, and because of it, he is a happier pet. Here are some beneficial reasons to get a dog park. It is affordable. Dogs can play on a designated safe area. People who are afraid of dogs can know they are safely away from them. And should I show the design layout? Yeah, okay. And I made like this little design layout.
Wow. Very prepared. Love it.
So there could be like 2 different spots for small dogs and big dogs, and then there could be like hooks for the leashes.
Yes, that's great. Thank you very much. So this young gal also, like she mentioned, she's the younger sister of our Lindon City Youth Mayor. And when we had our Life Hacks event with probably 300 to 400 youth at Wadley Farms, she made a video of that event. So she is a future civic leader, I think, up and coming. That is great information. We can pass that along to our Parks and Rec director, and I think, having a designated dog park area is something that has been considered, and definitely can look into that more. And if you have information, if you could send that to Mr. Cowie, and then he can forward that to the Parks and Rec director, what you prepared.
It is something that we have talked about as a council and then considered it in our, down by the lake in our Geneva resort area.
So one other thing I would add, first off, incredible job and way to come here prepared. We have a master plan for our parks, and I just pulled it up right now, and I know in several spots there it talks about dog parks. I go run on that track sometimes, and I notice for whatever reason that's kind of a central dog hub. Every time I'm running there, someone's there with dogs, so that's a good point. Is that our land? Is that our park?
By the tennis courts at the junior high?
Yeah.
That is all school district property.
That's the school
Yeah,
district right
the
there.
closest park that we have near that would be Pioneer Park.
That might be something that we need to consider, but I agree with the need there. So I guess my homework for you would be to go take a look at our parks master plan. All you have to do is Google master plan Lindon City Parks, and it'll pop up. But we'll take that under advisement. I agree with the mayor to send that on, and we'll keep looking for solutions. Hopefully, so we can we don't have a similar scenario to what happened to you. But I appreciate you coming in.
All right. Thank you.
Well spoken,
I
thank
have
you.
One more question.
Oh, yes.
I was wondering if there was any way I could serve in like our community, like in the ways I could.
It depends on your interests, and then we kind of meld those two together.
Yeah.
What are your interests?
I don't know.
Well, the Little Miss Lindon Royalty is a service organization that may be your age coming up, and and then also what your sister's doing when you're older in high school, and certainly things like this, noticing things that could make our community better and sharing that information is great. Anything you want to do to organize on your own. Sometimes there's community efforts to clean up a park or plant a tree or help with different things. So, council, any other advice?
A comment that in 2024 is our 100-year celebration for Lindon City, and we'll be doing a lot of events during that year, and would love to involve you in that and participate, help us with that. So I'll make sure to get your contact information, and I'll reach out to you when the time permits so that we can get you involved and see if
Mr.
it's
Malgaba
of
is
interest.
looking for talent of all ages.
Yes, to
We
serve
can-
on,
and
help on the
involve
committee.
citizens. Yes.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
okay. All right. Any other public comment at this time? All right, seeing none, we'll move forward to item number 4. This is the council reports. And we can begin. I see some smiles over here, like we might be ready. Go ahead,
I'd love to
Jake.
begin. There's been so many items that I'm sure there'll be a lot of duplicates. So let me be the first to report on several from Parks and Rec. The Santa Extravaganza, Santa Parade, historic tree lighting, and Light the Night celebrations all had the opportunity to attend all of those, and they were all great. Our Parks and Rec department does an incredible job, and I feel like we're really making our own print on Christmas this year. And in the last couple of years, I think we've made that an effort and a focus, and it's paying off. So maybe the only other thing I would add from Parks and Rec, sounds like the decision has been made to bring the Lindon Days booklet in-house. And so we want to try to, Heath will be coming to us soon with requests for us to help to find advertisers with local businesses, owners if we can. So keep that in mind. Heath said that's probably a few weeks out from him coming to talk to us about that. Our police department has been very busy. I see the chief back there. Multiple arrests, Walmart, Home Depot, as you can imagine at this time of the year. Nova graduation. I've got a report here from Chief. And you may have seen on our social media page, distracted driving enforcement. Chief, why don't you walk us through that? What are you guys doing there, and what does that look like?
So these distracted driving special enforcement are state-funded opportunities for municipalities and counties to have extra enforcement on our streets, especially during the holidays. We have a lot of distracted driving, which includes on phones, a variety of distracted things. So we're going to be out, and we've done 2 in the past couple weeks. We'll be out tomorrow again with a 4 or 5 man team to focus on State Street, some of our arteries coming through the city, and kind of cut back on some of that distracted driving, which can lead into other illegal substances, DUIs, things like that as well.
So state funded.
Yes, sir.
And I love that we are beforehand posting it on our social media. So it's not a gotcha thing. It is a, hey, we're focusing on this, and so you know, there'll be a heightened amount of officers out looking for that tomorrow. I think for someone like myself, I see that, and I try not to drive distracted, but it's in my mind. I think it's making a positive change here in our city. So thanks for doing that, Chief.
Yep, you're welcome.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you.
All right, it'd be a little repetitive, but the events for Christmas have been very fun, very well received. Lots of comments from Lindon citizens saying how much they appreciate that. And then, just because it's kind of in my area, we all received that email with our Chief Building Inspector, Phil Brown, stepping down after, I don't know how many years.
35.
I know he inspected my first home in Lindon in, I think, 1987. And so, been a long time. So, tribute to him, and I guess that search for the replacement will begin probably soon. So, want to pay tribute to Phil there.
Is that it?
Yes.
Tall shoes to fill, for
Yes.
sure. Okay.
Very large shoes. I'll echo all of that. And going off of our Christmas celebrations, just an FYI on the thoughts and plans of what has been going on with the lights in our park, in our city center park. As most people have realized, we scaled back and did not do the large tree of life. There is a non-city sponsored one on Center Street, though, if you'd like to view that one. That is not a taxpayer expense, but that's a beautiful one as well. The reason behind that is, and I've talked with many citizens in the park and they've still enjoyed it so much, is that in preparation for a possible recession and the money that we put into putting lights on our public safety building, our Christmas lights, and then, or holiday lights, because we can use it throughout the year, and our city, the building that we're in right now, our city center. We purposefully scaled back and did not do the quasi-tree of life type of a situation and lit trees so that families could have a safe place to gather. And I've gotten a lot of good compliments about the fact that we're trying to be fiscally conservative in a time when it is a little bit
Tentative.
yes, exactly. So we're being very careful with your dollars and still trying to provide a lovely space for our community to gather in this special time of year. Our youth council was sworn in this last council meeting, and a wonderful group of people, of youth who are taking good charge of their responsibilities and looking forward to going to the state legislative opening, I can't even remember what it's called.
Day at the Legislature.
Day at the Legislature.
Yeah.
It is sponsored by the Utah County Leagues of Cities and Towns in conjunction with our state legislature, an opportunity for them to meet and mingle with similar peers throughout the state. And we will be doing that on the 18th of January. And we're looking forward to a great time with the youth then, and more reports on that to come. Our senior center had a wonderful event on the 15th, and a good time had by all. I was unable to attend, but a lot of good reports on that wonderful activity for our seniors. And then also just on another note, a big thank you to my fellow council members for helping to establish parameters for keeping our citizens and business people safe in our city by implementing our massage parlor ordinance. This last week, I had the opportunity to attend the Sound of Freedom, which is a movie that will be coming out. It was just a local premiere concerning Tim Ballard and his one of his missions on OUR Operation Underground Railroad with Jim Caviezel as the star. It was a wonderful event held at the Sierra Theater with about 700 people there, and it was riveting to sit among people who care so much about making sure that people who are harmed through slavery of any kind, but specifically sex slavery, that this issue has more awareness. And I just want to say thank you for helping with that in our city, making sure that our citizens and the clientele of our citizens' businesses are held safe. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Powell. All right, Councilmember Magleby.
I have little to announce here other than as I mentioned earlier, the 100-year celebration in 2024. There will be multiple events taking place during that year, and in 2023 we plan to organize and solicit individuals who are interested in helping with that, young and old. And anyone here has that interest in participating with that organizational aspect, please let me know. As far as the other responsibilities I have, there's nothing taking place at this point. Tree board kind of sits dormant during the winter. And so that's all I have.
If any council members would have citizens that you think would be good to reach out to and serve in that capacity, would love to entertain any recommendations as well.
Wonderful.
And I'd like to thank Daryl. He has hosted staff numerous times with his restaurant to help recognize some of their efforts as well as help organize some of these meetings. So thank you for that.
Good, thank you. Yes, a couple of things. Going back to the Christmas, there was an object that my wife wanted desperately that we couldn't find down here in the valley, so we had to go up to Salt Lake to get it, South Jordan to be particular. And one thing we noticed, and it was along the main drag there, 33rd South, as you were heading west, all along on the poles, telephone poles, there were these incredible little caricatures, lighted caricatures of like reindeer and Santa and stars and stuff like that. I don't know if we've even looked into something like that. I can't remember how detailed you got. I know you get a good job of researching
Would love to
that.
be able to afford those, and also we just don't have the
As close
sequence of
of
polls
polls. I wondered
in order
about
to pull
that.
that off. The one thing we do have that most cities don't is we have an opportunity, and Adam will help me say this correctly, a permit that goes across State Street. The problem is we're a 7-lane highway here, but very few cities have that ability to put a banner across State Street. But we'd like to look at that someday, but that is an expense, and we have to finish being able to put that in with UDOT.
I was just coveting it. It looked really, really
Yes.
cool.
Oh, I
I mean, what
covet.
we've done is fantastic. Thank you.
Every step, we appreciate you, Councilmember Powell,
Oh,
for,
absolutely.
for all
Absolutely.
the Christmas cheer that you've helped enhance.
We know that you've looked at it, many different options, so thank you. Well, I'm happy to report that up in our neck of the woods, if you will, on our traffic calming devices, our speed bumps, we got those all marked, designated, and so they're easy to be seen, and all is right with the world, at least in that regards.
Okay.
And all the other issues. So thank you. Thanks to our Public Works Department for making sure that was taken care of. Also, just a quick report on our fence specialist there along 4th North on the south side of the street, Tim Clyde and his group. They came in as the Planning Commission and presented their plan, and it was approved in phases. But if I understand it correctly, the first phase is going to include the drainage portion and also a fence that's going to be put up. So he's already cleaned off the vegetation and stuff on that berm, which looks a lot better. But he has come in, applied for the permit, so you'll start seeing some progress there. It was approved, I guess, in phases, but that's been a long time coming, and appreciate staff and our legal team and Tim coming around. So just wanted to report on that. Thought that was a good thing. We've had a little bit of change coming this new year on our North Point Solid Waste Special Services District Board. As you know, Commissioner Lee was not reelected, so Brandon Gordon, who is one of the new commissioners, will be a board member. He's currently serving on South Valley Board, but he'll relinquish that position and come on our board, which we are grateful for. He's got a wealth of experience on that board and brings a lot. And then Dave Shawcroft, who was on our board also, who was an assistant county attorney with the county, has left to serve a mission in South America. So another county attorney, and his name escapes me now. I was told that today, but so again, we'll be well represented from the county, but things are going, you know, they say the sign of a good operation is when you don't really have anything to complain about or to report about. So things are just going normally well there. So, and that's all I have. Thank you.
All right. I just wanted to quickly acknowledge the chamber. We gave Jiffy Lube here in Linden the Business of the Month award. And then also myself and our planner, Mary Barnes, and Community Development Director, Michael Florence, we attended the EDC Utah event. And is there anything from your department you would like to add to tonight in the announcements? Okay, wonderful. All right, turn it to you, Adam.
Just a reminder, we have meetings in January on the 3rd and the 17th. Those are on Tuesday nights. On the meeting on the 3rd may be canceled. I will let you know by Wednesday if we may not have anything that's pressing there. So then just an FYI, Mike, we've got you down as the newsletter for January, which is due the last week of this month. So as soon as you can get that into Kathy, that would be awesome. Sound all right?
It will be awesome.
Okay. We've got our employee Christmas party tomorrow night at 6 p.m. for those that were planning to attend over at the community center. And then our offices are closed at noon on Friday, the 23rd, and then on the 26th and 27th, and then for New Year's on January 2nd. I did want to just give you a quick FYI on the secondary metering project. They will be starting, we thought they would be kicking this off in December, and with the holidays and some of their other work schedules in other communities, they've decided to start the first week in January. And so I will be sending to you an area map. Mike, if you could just, I'll send you a digital copy. We've broken the city up into small little districts, and they will be working in consecutive order, 1, 2, 3, and down the line through, I believe it's 28. And installing the meters starting in area number 1 as you look at these maps, and I'll send you a digital copy of this. We will send out an Everbridge notice a week ahead of time in these specific areas. We'll put maps on our social media, on our website. We've sent out hard copies in the utility bill of the secondary metering project and update. We're trying to get the word out in every way that we can. We know that people will still be caught off guard that won't have heard about this. And so if you have questions or if you have people call you, please refer them back to Public Works or to me, and we'll try to help them.
It won't be for lack of effort. I think you folks have done a wonderful job of getting the word out. And if someone hasn't seen it, they're just not looking.
Yeah, we'll see how
Yeah.
many. So,
Adam, Hydrovac is also supposed to flyer the street.
yes,
in the
they'll
neighborhood
be
before
putting
they
door
begin.
hangers about a week ahead of time, a week to 2 weeks. And they're leaving it a little bit vague of will be in your neighborhood soon. They decided not to put specific dates on there just in case they have weather delays or other things like that that come up. So I will send you a couple bits of information on that. There is a fantastic map that Public Works has put together. They have every meter in town entered into our GIS system. And as those meters are installed, our inspectors are clicking it, entering some information, taking photos, uploading that, showing before and after information, and color coding it so we can look at a map and see the progress that we're making throughout the city. So, let's see, Van mentioned Phil's retirement announcement. As of right now, we have a vacancy on one of our other inspectors, and our thought right now was to leave that open until we get a new building official in that can help participate in hiring and filling that as we need that. And so, also, Jake, I don't know if you mentioned Taryn's, did you mention Taryn's master?
Go ahead and bring that up.
Oh, Taryn Harmon, our newest officer, completed her Master of Public Service degree from UVU. So that's a big accomplishment. We just wanted to recognize her and give her kudos for that. So I think that is all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And just to
Mayor,
go
I
ahead.
was going to say, could we get a more firm up our budget kickoff date? It bounced out around a couple times, and I'm just needing a date
Yep,
for
let
some
me look
planning.
that up.
While he's looking that up, just to reiterate, with the meters that are being installed, the city will not be charging different water rates for a couple of years. These will be put in, and then members of the community can use the app to see their water use, and we're hoping that just by good stewardship, folks will reduce water by a certain percentage with that awareness. At my home, for example, I had the meter installed this last spring, and it indicated that there was an underground leak that we could not see that was using 50 gallons a day. So had to dig up a few places to find it, but it's an example of where, you know, we were very grateful to have that information with that technology. So we know that this is a sensitive topic for a lot of folks in the community, and it's something that's required by the state, by law. And we had access to funds if we deployed prior to the deadline that the state required, then we had funds to put these in at no additional fees or cost to our residents. So we're hoping that this can be a positive thing in the future. We can gather good data and treat those different water users that came into the system with different situations in as fair a manner as we can.
Mayor, just
Yes.
kind of, you know, this thing about 5 degrees of separation, how you end up just on an airplane last week, ran into a fellow that got to chatting with him, and he provides the equipment to hydrovac that they use to do these meter things, and he's done a lot of business with the city and knew Juan very well. So it's just funny how you run into people, and so that's why you have to behave yourself while you're traveling.
I guess so. All right, do you have those dates ready?
February 23rd. It's a
So
Thursday.
this is still the most current one. I know that we had some discussion, but this is the one that we have solidified. Is that
This
correct?
is the one that was adopted,
Okay.
yes.
I didn't know if
What
we're going
time
to
was that
discuss it a
at?
little bit more or not, so.
I
you.
think we've
Conflict
done,
with that date?
I'm just making sure I don't have a conflict, so,
okay.
before I schedule.
You know, I want to say that we've done 6 o'clock on this
6 o'clock's
one,
one,
but, okay.
Thank you
Just
very
in
much.
case we're not meeting January 3rd, I was going to invite the council. You could put this on your calendar if you're interested. TSSD, the Timpanogos Special Services District, which is our sewer plant, well, not ours, but it's a separate entity that they are, I've reached out to them. They are looking to do an engineered wetlands plan and trail that would connect in with our trail. And their director, Mr. Mickelson, said we could come and have a tour when the Army Corps of Engineers come and discuss the properties there, which is adjacent, those wetlands with ours. And then afterwards, some of our businesses out in that area, especially in the summertime, have indicated that there's a little bit of a nuisance with smell. And so he also said he could share at the end of that tour what their plans are. They have a specific strategy over the next few years to address handling the waste and reducing odor. That will be January 12th. Yeah, so I could send you all an email, but if you want a heads up, just in case we don't meet the first Monday in January. Okay. All right, anything else before we move on to the minutes? Okay, wonderful. Council, moving on to item number 6. This is the approval of our minutes from our council meeting last November 21st.
I have no changes.
Any other?
I have none. I wasn't present, but I did watch it via Zoom at home, so.
All right.
I looked, there was nothing that I could see.
Okay, very good.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of November 21st, 2022.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Broderick, seconded by Councilmember Powell. All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are unanimously approved. Thank you all. Okay, moving on, we now have item number 7, our consent agenda. These are items that are kind of housekeeping type items. We have a couple here that I will have Mr. Cowie address.
So the Communities That Care, the CTC contract with Utah County Health Department, you received and reviewed that, approved a contract. They came back with a revision that actually increased the amount that they were willing to participate, and then they extended it for 2 years instead of just 1. And so we see no reason not to have you reapprove this. And so we didn't want to rehash it totally. And then also, as we do every December, we've just included a memo there in your staff report regarding the merit increase for employees. Our budget year looks very positive. We're on target with our revenues and our projections given there. We have a stronger economic outlook in Lindon than perhaps nationwide may have. And we've certainly seen some slowdowns in residential housing, but continue to see good projects looming in the horizon for commercial and industrial. And we have a healthy general fund reserve. We're recommending that we move forward with those merit increases as budgeted. So.
All right, any comments or discussion by council?
To approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember McElby, seconded by Councilmember Vanchery. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, wonderful. We're very excited and grateful to our staff member, Jamie, who is training for the Communities That Care initiative. Looking forward to those benefits, as well as just want to give a shout out to all of our employees. We're all unanimously very grateful and appreciative of your good work and the merit that is merited at this time as proposed in the budget. All right, moving on to item number 8. This is a review and action for a bid award for janitorial services. So, again, Mr. Cowie.
Yeah, our facilities manager, Alex Roylance, is here if you have any questions for Alex. He's sent out a request for proposals, received multiple bids there, and we had some concerns with our current contract and things that we've tried to resolve and felt like we needed to make a change there. And we are recommending that we award the contract to RBM, which is a janitorial service, and they've moved in here in Lindon just across the street, and so we hope that we'll have a great relationship with RBM. And they have a representative here tonight with us if you have questions for them. We would recommend approving the janitorial contract with RBM in the amount of $110,956.11 per year. And that covers all of our city facilities and buildings outside of the parks. So those are separate.
I had a question regarding the annual, or the one-time cleanup of the pool. What does that entail?
Alex, can you address that?
That's just it's just an annual, they're just doing a deep clean, everything to just get it ready, sanitized, disinfected, ready to go for the.
Like the interiors of the buildings,
The
or like the
locker
pools?
rooms?
That's just the locker rooms, they just take care of the locker rooms, the dressing rooms for us, that's in the area.
Not the water areas of the
Not,
pool.
yeah, not
Yeah, not the water areas of the pool, no, just the,
the aprons or anything.
yeah, just the public areas, the locker rooms, the
Okay.
changing rooms.
So it's a pretty significant jump from what MBM was. Could you walk us through some of those issues that we were having with MBM to merit the increase?
Mostly they just, their service level was just decreasing all the time. They just weren't spending enough time in our facilities to really get the job done.
We've had a few incidents that I would be happy to talk with you offline.
Okay.
I don't feel that it would be appropriate in a public meeting, but things that we tried to resolve that we feel were not handled appropriately. And Alex and I have made the comment, we're getting what we pay for, and we feel like the bids that were submitted are closer to what it probably would take, as several of those were closer in their dollar amounts. Things such as, maybe I'll expound a little bit without giving too much information. Cleaners bringing children, and when we had asked them not to, those kids playing with our computer system, pretty significant issues. And mishandling of paperwork that was on desktops. And so some things that we talked about that were recurring. And then just the general cleanliness, we were dissatisfied with several instances and had discussed those and didn't feel like they'd been resolved to our satisfaction. repetitively.
RBM's been around for a long, long time.
It is a big dollar amount, but we're concerned about some of the safety and security issues that we've experienced.
And we've also had to see wages go up across the board, so I'm sure that's part of it. Well, we're sure glad that you're a local business now.
We're thrilled to be here.
That's fantastic. All right, council, any other questions or discussion?
I'll move to approve the bid award
Just a second, I'm trying
Yes.
to do the math on the,
between the bids.
on the, with the aquatic center cleaning of 4,769, and when you add that to the 103, I don't think we get 110.
Let's see, let me get,
Yeah, I don't think those numbers quite work.
oops.
Should be 108 to change. Yeah, 108
That's even better.
320.
What's the document say? Is there a line there?
Oh, I'm on the wrong page.
We're on,
What page are
Page
you on?
30.
There we go.
there you go.
For RBM. You're adding the 86 and the 19, is that what you're doing?
The 86 and the 19 to get to 103, and then an additional 4769.96 gets you to 108. There's a
Okay,
$2,600 discrepancy.
we'll get that corrected. Let's see, does that change anything, Alex, for you on your recommendation?
No, we'll make sure those numbers are correct.
Anything from our representative from RBM?
No, we certainly will address that math issue. It seems like Alex and I have talked about that already, but I can't remember what we came up with. But I would like to just reiterate the fact that we feel really good about being part of Lindon. We've been around 45 years and always been in Provo, and a year ago we moved here, and are just really excited to be here and welcome the opportunity to work for the city.
We love doing business with our own businesses. I think that's awesome.
It's a tough commute across, that's not too far away, right? Does that make-
Across the street, yep.
That was an error then on this 103, it was actually 106, and then when you add the 4769, the total is still the 110, is what I came up with.
So it's the math in the other area.
Yeah,
Other side of it. Okay.
so I think our total is still the same that we were recommending.
All right, thanks
So,
for
Thank
being
you.
attentive.
Are you guys leasing or did you buy from Pressman?
This building,
Yes, sir.
we bought it.
Bought it, okay. Okay.
Any plans for the frontage area?
Just big parking lot.
Yeah.
We use it occasionally. At some point, we may build another building in the parking lot. I don't know. We'll see. If that's allowed, I don't know. But,
Mary, right
New
over
development
there.
right there. It probably has the space for it.
we hope to have some space that we can grow in.
Excellent.
Love to see, help you grow here. All right.
All right, I'll move to approve the bid award for janitorial services to RBM in the amount of $110,956.11 annually as presented.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Magleby, excuse me.
One more one question.
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry, I'm assuming that's a one-year duration? Does it have renewal clauses, or does that be rebid every? Okay, I probably should have read that in the contract. I glanced over it, but I didn't see it, so,
Okay.
okay.
All right.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, seconded by Councilmember Hoyt. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that is unanimous. Welcome and thank you. We look forward to the new services and relationship with RBM.
On this next item, number 9, this is a review and action for a bid award for a small remodel project. For those that have been, this was Donna's old office. Rebecca is currently in there. She has a challenging location there, a lot of traffic that goes through her office as she handles a lot of HR documents and things and meeting with people that are on issues that are often confidential. It makes it a challenge for our employees to kind of get back and forth between the building. And we've talked about remodels for years. This has been something that we included in the budget that you adopted in July. We bid this out. Alex received, sent out a request for proposal, received 4 bids. We're recommending that we award the low bid to DB Contractors in the amount of $22,457.22. They've indicated they can have the project done in 2 weeks, so minimal disruption. And this is basically shifting her office kind of towards to the west, just enough to get a hallway through there so that we can have a continuous hallway around her working space and then give some more privacy for her and those that meet with her. So, questions on this?
Where will she be located in the
She
meantime?
will be in the upstairs conference room for these next couple of weeks
Just
once
across
this
the
gets
hall then?
started. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
When you say the next couple of weeks, they will be working while the city offices are closed some days, or?
Sorry, I phrased that incorrect.
We'll start moving her right after the first of the year into there, and then
Only-
contract will start on the 6th. He said he can have that in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Great.
Very good. Okay, great. Any other questions?
Have we worked with
Discussion?
DB Contractors before?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I've talked to their owner several times, and I feel comfortable that
References and such?
Vetted him.
Great.
Okay, council, you feel
I'd be happy to make a motion.
happy to
please.
entertain a motion? Thank you.
I move to approve bid award for the remodel of the city center office construction, project bid with DB Construction LLC in the amount of $22,457.22.
All right.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you for the motion, Councilmember Powell, seconded by Councilmember Vanchery. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? It sounded unanimous, thank you. Okay, we're cruising along here. Item number 10. Thank you, Alex. All right, item number 10, this is a public hearing. We're going to be looking at a zoning map amendment. And I'd like to welcome our planning director, Mary Barnes, who will be presenting this. Planning director, go ahead.
You hear that, Mike?
Just kidding. I'm being prophetic.
It's our meeting this morning.
Planner, not director, sorry. I have a cold and I'm on Dayquil.
the planning director.
All right. Thank you so much. So this zone change is for the Sunrise Warehouse Park, and we actually have the applicant Ryan Lidkey here today. If you'd like to come up to the front. Yeah, that'd be great, thanks. So this zone change is for this parcel outlined in red right here. It will change it from the current zone R120 to light industrial. It's about 0.165 acres at approximately 860 West, 200 South. In the past, this entire property, which is outlined in white, and I'll go to a larger aerial picture, this entire property has received site plan and subdivision approval for first 45 storage units in 2016, and then second 75 storage units just last year, including a zone change for this back property, excluding the parcel that is being discussed tonight. At the time of the zone change that was approved last year for this back portion of the property, the previous property owners had not acquired this small parcel, but now that the property has changed hands to the applicant, they've proposed 2 warehouses to be built on this property pending zone change approval instead of the storage units. So for your information, the Planning Commission did review and approve this new site plan for these 2 warehouses. And a minor subdivision, I don't think I included the plat in here. Anyways, a minor subdivision including this lot 1. I can pull that up. And then they and they recommended approval for the zone change last planning commission meeting on December 13th, but that site plan and that minor subdivision approval is conditioned on approval of the zone change at this meeting. Let's see, I did attach renderings of the buildings just for your information. These are the two. This is the larger warehouse, and here's the smaller warehouse. This one will have 8 units with offices, and this one will have 4 units with offices. There's a landscaping plan that meets the requirements, and the minor subdivision, which I can pull up if needed. Minor subdivision, I'll show here, includes this residential lot. This is just trivia for your information. It includes this residential lot. The previous property owners did do an illegal subdivision, creating this small like flag almost. And so the minor subdivision includes this residential lot to clean up this flag, and it will rededicate this portion of 800 West to the city. So, but again, that's conditioned on this zone change tonight. So the previous applications with storage units did bring up many concerns. I'm sure you remember those, with possible residences being in the storage units and use of the storage units during the night when the residential, properties are, looking for something a little bit that could have a little bit less of a continuous use. This rezone will allow the applicant to consolidate the entire property with that subdivision plat and build the proposed 2 warehouses and have enough parking and enough landscaping to be able to fit that into this honestly very difficult piece. In the general plan, this area is technically designated R1 residential low. It's R120 zone, but residential low. As you know, there is the upcoming general plan update that within the new year. So we can easily change that to the mixed commercial designation with that upcoming general plan update. And with the approval of the minor subdivision, which is conditioned on this zone change, then this lot is currently a non-conforming lot. It's too small in the R120 zone and too small in the light industrial zone. It will become a conforming lot, and like I said, help the applicant with his overall application. Public hearing notices for the zone map were sent to all the affected entities and all the neighbors in the surrounding area. We didn't get any complaints back. We had a few people come to the planning commission meeting. That was simply to ask for information. And we do believe that this project, city staff does believe that this project will put investment into an otherwise empty piece of land. And it will have less of a potential impact on the neighborhood than the 75 storage unit application from last year would have had. It will also provide more employment opportunities within Lindon, and to be able to function properly, this zone change is required. Any questions from me or the applicant? Yes.
So that
I apologize. We did not open a public hearing for this item.
Okay.
So thank you for presenting that information. I'd entertain a motion to open the
Make a
public
motion
hearing.
to open a public hearing.
I'll second.
Great, thank you. Motion by Councilmember Broderick, seconded by Councilmember Powell. All in favor of opening a public hearing?
Aye.
Thank you all. Okay, so we will go ahead and open to discussion by council here for a moment.
I just had a couple of quick questions. The piece in red, when was that subdivided? Was that recently, or was that a previous?
That was the previous property owners with the storage units. They bought that back section off this residential property owner.
And so it was subdivided at that time?
It wasn't subdivided.
The owners that did the storage units, they had a habit of creating a bunch of illegal lot splits over there.
Mm-hmm.
So they would they would buy the property and then deed themselves a portion of it, or they would work with another property owner and buy their backyard through a deed. And so nothing was done officially by the city, so this is kind of cleaning those things up.
So it'll be subdivided with this action?
It'll, no, what the planning commission was approved it's already been deeded and kind of subdivided, so this is just cleaning it up and consolidating everything into one lot.
There's about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lots there that will become one lot.
I see. Now, does it leave that L-shaped piece as a non-conforming lot?
No, that's going, here, I can pull up the plat.
That would be part of the.
That L-shaped piece is part of this development?
No, it's part of the front, the home in the front.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes. And so, yes, it is,
It's an emergency exit, right?
it is non-conforming, but it's already non-conforming. And-
Mike,
but-
Mike, those have been joined though, if you remember.
Okay. That was one of the things.
Those
we
have been
were-
what?
They've been joined, so
joined.
we've already worked with
Here-
Mr.
here's the
Nelson,
plat.
so that's actually one lot now. The county hasn't updated it.
So the L-shape and Mr. Nelson's property are now one parcel?
Correct.
Are you guys using that as an access point still?
Fire access. It has to meet codes, so there's an easement there of 20 feet that follows that property line down. There'll be a breakaway gate. Nobody will be able to use it except the fire department.
Breakaway gate will be on the road.
I think they're gonna
800
require us
west.
to put it down by the subdivision, because if we put it out on the road, then Mr. Nilsson won't have access to his side of the property. Does that make sense?
No, that does, okay.
So it'll be right down at the bottom by
Here.
the parking lot there.
Where that X is.
But that was already the plan, I think, before on the other one as well.
Do you have tenants? Are these builders,
We don't have any tenants per se right now. We've built a few of these buildings here in Lindon. This isn't our first one here, so typically we kind of have to get down the road on construction a little bit before the tenants show up. We do have a few interested parties, but we're still so far away, it's hard to nail them down. But
and these are intended to be owned by you or condominiumized?
these ones will be owned by us.
Okay.
Yep.
Not at any future date? You're not
I mean,
anticipating condominiumizing?
We started building one, and somebody showed up and bought one. I think if you're familiar with the building over there, what is that address, Mike? I always forget. Over by the North County dump there. It's like 1800 something and something. Anyway, we built one that's very close to this with the intention of keeping it, but we ended up selling it. But same idea. But yeah, our intention is to keep all of this.
Your main entrance was is a little bit tricky. We talked a lot about it when the storage unit group came through. What's the plan there?
Still
Shift the
tricky.
parking lot?
Yeah, we're gonna, through that 60-foot easement, we'll come in. They're already utilizing parking on the west side, so we're gonna kinda, we've talked with the owner there. I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna kinda paint some lines on a no parking area, so that allows traffic in and out of that, which will probably be about 30 feet wide. And then he'll have parking on the one side, and that'll follow the same parking you can see on ours there on the west, so we'll kinda keep that side for parking, and then we'll be able to travel in and out that way.
Okay.
All right, any other questions from council? All right, this is a public hearing, so I'll open this to anyone here in the audience who may have a question in regards to this zone map amendment.
Seeing none, I'll motion to close the public hearing.
All right,
Second.
thank you. Motion by Councilmember Hoyt, seconded by Councilmember Broderick. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, bringing this back to the council then for any further discussion.
I'm just going to say this, I said it the first time when it was the storage units, but I'm actually more concerned about it now. Doesn't mean that I'm anti-project here, but I am still very concerned about that access on 200 South. That I feel like these types of units probably will have the potential to generate more traffic depending on the occupant. So I'm a little tentative, just discussing that little bit of concern about the types of tenants, and because that's all very arbitrary on the promise of what the traffic will be into that off of 200 South in that access there in front of the appliance store.
All right, noted, Councilmember Powell. Is there ever potential for future access at any point as you have
You
looked
can
at
open up
this?
you can open up that fire access, we can come in and out of there. I don't know, I mean,
it's hard because it is a unique piece. It's really buried back
Landlocked,
there,
yeah.
right? I think we all agree, it's not ideal. What happens with the opposing neighbors to the north at some point, that could open it up, and then we could have an access that comes back out of the north end of the parking lot at some point. But you're running into some interesting issues when you get into the building side of things. You're getting farther and farther away from fire issues and fire access stuff, and so that becomes a real big issue. Hence the reason we have the one access down the side. But my conversation with the owner, he knows he granted this easement years ago. He knows what was going to happen.
Who's responsible for the development of it? Who's responsible for developing that portion?
Of his space there? Yeah. Well, we're going to have to tear it all up because we've got to get utilities from 200 south through there. So we're going to have to repave 60 feet wide. He knows that.
But you're responsible
Yeah,
for that,
we're gonna
for
pay
that
for
cost.
that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think of all the discussion and concerns sitting through the planning commission meetings, I remember well when they were going to condominiumize those, and it was, I think the approval was a begrudging approval. It was an approval nonetheless, but there were just so many concerns still. I agree with Council Member Powell that the likelihood of more traffic is there because of the potential use, but I think the desirability of what's going there, in my estimation, is far more desirable than what was proposed to go there initially. And I think it's just a natural consequence of just ongoing development. I think if it's wide enough, if it's striped properly, if it's, it's just something that'll just have to deal with, I think.
Yeah, it's not ideal. I agree, but
else, really, what else could that property?
I don't know. Storage units has always been kicked around, but what worries me about storage units is the depth of that place and how dark it is back there.
Yeah.
Who knows what could be going on back there? I think the stuff that we build, the lighting that's presented on the buildings and stuff's going to keep that a little more obvious of what's going on.
My only real concern is traffic, and mainly a semi
Sure.
situation and the troubles that can cause, the quagmire of
That road to 200 South, that
yeah,
intersection in
that's horrible.
Geneva gets backed up, as you know, maybe
Just-
more than anyone
Yep.
with your former building there. But I can tell you this, I love this use, this flex
Oh, yeah.
space. It is the number one use right now. Everyone
Just
wants
hot.
it. And I'm excited for the prospect of bringing potentially 12 new businesses into Lindon. I love that you're using that little carve-out piece and adding some additional buildings.
I think it'll turn out good. I do.
Yeah.
I think you'll be happy with it when it's done. I mean, they're valid concerns for sure. And some tenants,
my only concern.
we have tenants that have some of our building space that's very similar to this that just store stuff in it, and they don't come there very often. Then I have other ones that run, some kind of a dance studio or something, and they will have a little bit of traffic that comes in and out. But I'd almost prefer, and I know this sounds crazy, but I'd actually prefer to have a little bit of traffic back through there just to see what's going on. Again, you seclude it with some storage units and stuff. It could be interesting what could happen back there.
I agree with Councilman Bancheri that was very tentative whether we liked that project before. This one is a much more appealing project.
Sure,
And
sure.
Let me, just for gut check, kind of, what are construction prices,
A lot.
material prices?
A lot more than they used to be.
Well, yes, that's a given, but I mean, compared to, say, 6 months ago or
They're coming down.
a year ago.
They're coming down. It is really hard to say. We're pricing daily right now on things, but we definitely hit the peak and are on the way back down. But it's not a huge concern for me right now because as long as it pencils, when you're not reselling it, it doesn't matter as much.
Yeah,
So
the market can bear the rents. and
yeah, I
so
mean,
forth.
we feel like the previous owner was probably in a hardship situation when we bought this, and so we feel like it's a pretty good piece for what we paid. Obviously, we knew the location wasn't perfect, but this is super desirable stuff. You don't have a lot of this left in Lindon, so I think finding good tenants is going to be fairly easy because it's desirable. Again, it's just not, you can't just go throw these up everywhere anymore. They're pretty hard to find places to do it, so.
excited.
The couple comments for you.
Sure.
Appreciate the other comments by my fellow council here. In the lighting, you mentioned you want to have sufficient lighting.
Are you worried about the neighbors?
I have talked with neighbors there, and so, you know, if
So-
you could do the downward lighting.
Yes, those are the
It's-
new code lights that are on there.
Right, dark sky type lighting.
All the stuff will project onto the parking lot, shouldn't get out past that. If you look at one of the neighbors came to the last meeting, she was complaining about the truss company next door. They have the old style lighting on the back of their building, and it's way higher than these ones will be, and she says it does shine on their house. If anything, I think these buildings will slow some of that light down coming from the neighbor, and then our stuff is the new code stuff where it does tilt down, so it projects everything to the ground level rather than out.
That sounds great. You're aware of that.
Yes.
And then when it's under construction, I don't know if you have, you know, you can try to mitigate, you know, those residents being, you know, things happening at 5 a.m. during
Oh,
construction.
yeah, for sure. I mean, most contractors are pretty excited about getting started at the 7 o'clock time that they can. One of the first things that's gonna go in this project is we've got quite a bit of retention. If you're familiar with back there, you're welcome to go back there. It's quite a bit lower than the residents above. So whatever that road is to the 8th west is quite a bit higher than this piece. So our first starting point will probably end up being all of the retention that has to take place. So that'll give us a good buffer as well. That's got to come up a little bit and
So
stuff.
the 7-foot masonry wall on top of that would
Right,
be.
right. So that's going to
Yeah,
help
okay.
quite a bit back there on
Good.
all of that. But yes, I mean, our goal is to go pretty quick. We usually do, but you're going to, you know, we're not going to send them in there at 5 o'clock in the morning for sure.
Great, appreciate that. And then also just thinking about the residences, as you orient what type of, you know, office is on the east side facing the residences. You know, if you could have some awareness of the type of tenants that go in there, maybe are
Sure,
the semis, maybe type more active production or
sure,
packaging and shipping type folks are on the west, and maybe
sure.
the dance studio and those type of uses are
Sure.
tenants more facing the residential. That would be
Yeah.
great.
No problem. The good thing is that these don't have loading docks and stuff, so you're not going to get a lot of that in there anyway, and most of our other developments that mirror this. We do have a few tenants that use semi-trucks, but it's usually like once a day pickup or delivery stuff. But this isn't like the big Amazon centers or something where you see them bring in 20 semis and back them all up and leave them in there. This is ground level stuff, so
Okay.
that eliminates some of that as well.
Sounds like you thought through different things.
We've
to be
done a
good
few
neighbor.
of them, so
we want
kinda
this
feel
to
like
be
we know.
compatible.
Yep, I
Right?
understand.
Okay.
I wanted to show you this. These are the lights that will be used. Yeah, so they'll be pointing right downwards, right there.
Mary, question, was the planning commission, was it a unanimous decision?
Yeah, it
Right.
was.
Thank you.
All right, council, any other questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion. I will move that we approve a zoning map amendment. Mike, thank you.
There's the motion on page 43.
I would make a motion that we approve a zoning map amendment, ordinance number 2022-20-0, as presented.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Vanchery, seconded by Councilmember Powell. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it carries. Welcome to Lindon.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, we are now on item number 11 of the agenda. This is a discussion about a conditional use permit for a cell tower at 490 North State Street. Do we have anyone here representing the applicants for this item? All right, we'd love to welcome you here to the table. And then Planner Barnes, please commence.
Of course, thank you, Mayor. So this application is for a new cell tower at approximately 490 North State Street. This is the first new cell tower application we've had in Lindon since 2005. So it has taken a while to ensure that we meet every single requirement of Title 507, which is the Personal Wireless Telecommunication Facilities chapter. In the past, a conditional use permit for a new cell tower has gone before the Planning Commission. However, to be able to locate on school district property, Chapter 507 says that the City Council must grant a waiver. So this conditional use permit is coming before you, the City Council. As an overview of the project, a quick overview. A new 100-foot cell tower has been requested at 490 North State Street, which is the Alpine School District property. It's located approximately 206 feet away from State Street and 300 feet away from the closest residential use, as in closest residential parcel that actually has a residential use in it, so the closest home.
It says stealth designed. There's nothing stealthy about it.
I'll get to that as well. Anyways, this tower will allow for 3 levels of antenna for co-location, and Lindon's existing 4 cell towers are not more than 100 feet tall, so this isn't outside of our wheelhouse when it comes to cell towers up to this point. First, the site selection standards. Any new cell tower in Lindon City is required to locate on city property as a first priority, and then school district property as a second priority. It goes into the reasoning behind that in the code, but essentially it's to make sure that any revenue generated from a cell tower is used for the citizens of the city, and if not, the citizens of the city used for the school district, which is also benefiting citizens of the city. This is also covered in the, I believe it's the 3rd priority, or no, the 4th priority, which is private non-residential property. In order to locate on school district property, the applicant was required to provide technological evidence proving that the tower absolutely cannot be located on surrounding city property. According to this site selection justification document, a 100-foot tower is required in this area to help offload traffic from the neighboring sites, which can be seen as these dial points on the map. This site is optimal because it is within the high traffic area between Pleasant Grove 700 South right here and Lindon's 400 North along State Street. And I'm not sure if the representative has any comments on this. I'm not a telecommunications expert, so I'm not sure if you have any other comments on.
Wait, you're not?
This. Yeah, I know. I missed that part in planning college. Anyways, another requirement, I'll go through these jurisdiction locations. Friar Park is a little too far away. All of the locations are too far away from the required area that T-Mobile, who's the telecommunications provider, the area that they need. So they looked at Friar Park, Lindon City 1, which is the overflow for the Lindon City Cemetery, Lindon City 2, which is the cemetery, and then the City Park and Lindon Aquatic Center, which is too close to the current T-Mobile site. I'll come back here. Another requirement with the site selection standards was to demonstrate with technological evidence that the height requested is the minimum height necessary to fulfill the cell site's function within the grid system. Say that 10 times fast. Anyways, so the applicant has provided a letter from the T-Mobile engineer stating that 100 feet is the absolute minimum height that T-Mobile needs to be able to effectively offload traffic in that area. They would have preferred 120 feet, but I mean, we told them that no other tower has been higher than 100 feet in Lindon City. You're more likely to get, it's more palatable if it's 100 feet instead of 120 feet. So they provided a statement on that minimum height required. The applicant has provided, so the T-Mobile, who is the telecommunications provider, is FCC certified. We received confirmation of that. Cell tower site, in the code it says that if a cell tower is located in the CG zone, which it is, then it is permitted to be located on bare ground without existing visual mitigation. So this proposed site is in the CG zone. And it meets the minimum lot size for cell towers as well. Co-location, I'll go through this real quick as well. No, I think I already did. Okay, so co-location is a huge requirement in the city code. We want to make sure that the whole point of it is to ensure that if, I don't know, Verizon or AT&T need an antenna in the city, they can't just go ahead and build another cell tower. They have to see if they can co-locate on an existing tower. So this tower will have 3 levels of antennas. T-Mobile will be taking the top one, and then there's those 2 other levels that will be open for up-and-coming telecommunications providers when they, when the tower is built. There's also at least 3 areas for additional equipment buildings for those future telecommunication providers and for T-Mobile. All right, design criteria. Title 5.7.070, I believe, states that all new towers that are constructed shall be stealth towers, unless the applicant justifies to the council, in the council's sole discretion, that a stealth tower is not technically feasible. When we sent this requirement to the applicant, they came back with this faux evergreen tree, which was recently put, this is a recent project that they've done in Provo, December 2nd. So something similar to this. The definition, this was to fulfill the stealth tower requirement. The definition of stealth tower in Title 5.07 is that any structure that is designed and constructed primarily for the purpose of supporting one or more antennas in a manner that shall be camouflaging and constructed in a manner to avoid detection as a cell tower, such as flagpoles or trees. So the council, we talked to our city attorney about this to make sure our interpretations were right, but the council is able to discuss what a stealth tower would entail and whether that means a tree or not, as long as it meets the requirement that it is camouflaging and constructed in a manner to avoid detection as a cell tower. So you're welcome to discuss that after the presentation or now.
Our attorney is online. He's got some sick people at home, so he is here with us tonight. So.
All right, thank you. All right, applicant, anything you would like to add to what was presented thus far?
Sure, thank you. First, introductions. My name is Michael Powers, and I'm one of the 3 applicant representatives here today. I also have Carrie Woolner, who is and was a resident of Utah and knows the site perhaps better than I do in terms of the details, because you've been working with staff here for quite a while on this site, probably many months. And then also Stephen Phillips is also with us, and he is also a resident of Utah and has actually been involved in the construction of the site, the tower that's here on this parcel. So he's got lots of experience in Utah. And I've been with Atlas Tower since 2007, and we started our business actually here in Utah. I think we did 2 sites in St. George. And over the many years since 2007, we've worked with many, many communities up and down this highway corridor from Woods Cross to Provo and beyond. We've worked with SITLA, we've worked with municipal entities like city governments and also school districts. Obviously, SITLA is part of that school district matrix. And in this case, we did make our first priority to try to get on municipal property, but for technical reasons and locational reasons, it didn't work out. I still think this is a great win for the community in terms of having the revenue, which is a benefit to go into your school district. I'd like to make a couple more comments about our business model, just to see everyone. I don't know what your knowledge of our industry is. It seems like you haven't had a whole lot of applications successfully move through this city in a while, and then I'll talk a little bit about what we're trying to accomplish in terms of technology and the location, and then I think at that point I might stop and dive into questions. Seems like there'll be some questions about stealth, or maybe you have other things you want to discuss. But to make it really short, I'll just go fast. Basically in the US, and actually around the globe, for the most part, most of these infrastructure projects are being developed, owned, and leased back by what you would call a tower co. So Atlas Tower is a tower co, and by that, I basically mean that we work in partnership with the mobile network operator. In this case, it's T-Mobile, who is a awesome company here in the greater Salt Lake City area. They've been aggressively investing into many communities here. But could it be AT&T, Verizon, Dish Network, et cetera? But basically, we're under contract to work with them to build the site to make sure that they can improve problems in their network and make their customers and consumers have a better experience, and also improve safety and communication in the event of an emergency, et cetera. So with that said, some of the requirements for your code are actually being complied by T-Mobile. For instance, we are not a FCC license holder, but our partner T-Mobile is. Likewise, if you had concerns about the technology and safety and FCC compliance, obviously we have agreements where we being Atlas Tower and T-Mobile have agreements where we all agree to comply with all federal, local, and state regulations. But some of the onus of that compliance is actually on T-Mobile, because they will be installing their equipment and operating it unilaterally. We won't have any part in that piece. And also, just to catch a question that often comes up, their installation will also require a separate building permit. So when you're reviewing and deciding what to do about our application, just know that there is another level of review by the city in order for them to come onto the site and install their stuff and be in compliance with your rules. So with that introduction to our business model, I'll move on to what I said, which was why here. All of the sites that we build are basically pursuant to a network problem. And there are two flavors of network problems in the US. There's coverage and capacity. Coverage is you're lucky enough to be hiking in Bryce Canyon and you've got no bars. That's the ultimate coverage problem. We're not trying to build sites in national parks, but that's an example of a coverage issue. Coverage issues don't really exist in this type of atmosphere. Dense residential and municipal and city density. It's pretty much all about capacity, and capacity is a measure of, are they able to essentially, can the carrier meet the needs of the devices with the existing antenna arrays and equipment nearby at a level that allows them to actually provide that service in an effective way. And T-Mobile came to us because they actually, like AT&T and others, have capacity issues in this area. But we're working specifically with T-Mobile, so the application will bring T-Mobile to the project immediately, assuming we get approved. But we do build all of our sites to be co-locatable. So what does that mean? It means that from the get-go, we are investing more money in the site so that it doesn't need any improvements to add more useful equipment for other wireless users in the future. So it's more of a long-term capacity for more use for the community. So it's a community asset that has some expandability without change. Generally speaking, that means we're spending more money on the concrete below the ground, on the gauge of steel and how strong the tower is, and what sort of loading we theoretically used in order to build the site. So we're building an asset for the community that will provide benefits into the future. And sure, it's not just mobile network operators. Atlas has been in business. We've worked with the FBI, we've worked with weather monitoring equipment or universities. We've worked with the Coast Guard. There's no Coast Guard in Utah, but this type of structure has many uses that are for the benefit of the community. And probably the biggest one at the end of the day is emergency services. Something like 80 or 90 or higher % of all 911 calls are going through mobile phones. But even more interesting than that is that most emergency services are now using super sophisticated data as they drive towards a fire incident, or maybe they're have a police that's going to a call. They can figure out through the laptop, through their connectivity on in their car, their squad car, whether or not they're going to a known risk or not. They can have information about the people they're about to confront, et cetera. There's a lot going into that. So basically, I'm just trying to give you a sense of all of the benefits of this type of infrastructure. So that's kind of the wrap up on that. And then the last question was, the last topic I wanted to address just preemptively was, why here? T-Mobile has a set of engineers that work very hard to try to fix or improve their network in places where they have network issues. They know where things are working well and where they're not. Capacity issues are pretty not great here in this area. There's more demand for bandwidth than there are existing infrastructure to make it work well. And so when they go to Atlas or some other towerco to try to improve their network, they basically give us a search ring. Search ring looks like a circle on a map, and basically the engineers are saying, if you can fit the equipment within this circle, that will allow us to fix our problem. It becomes a Venn diagram from there. The circle's the big circle, but then we have to work with the jurisdiction and meet their zoning code, so that eliminates residential and it eliminates small parcels that don't meet setbacks, et cetera. And then there's also topography at times, or issues related to bringing in utilities or fiber optic cable, et cetera. Our team and T-Mobile's team carefully studied this for a long time, and one of the first things they look at, mostly because of cost-driven concerns, is are there existing towers in the area that would work to fix this problem? Because that's their number one go-to, because it's faster, it's cheaper, it's easier. And so we evaluated all of the existing towers within half a mile, a mile. It was pretty substantial research done there. And the conclusion was there was not an existing structure that would meet the need. So at that point, their team approved a bigger budget. Co-location is, something might cost around $100,000. Building a new site, our average on a non-stealth site is somewhere between $350,000 and $400,000 of capital invested in these sites, and obviously that goes up when you're doing something more sophisticated that may be, attempt to conceal the primary purpose of the structure, plus a lot of landscaping, et cetera. So we're coming to you because this is what's needed, not because this is what is expedient or cheapest. That's not the case. So with that, I'd obviously encourage you to think about the benefits of the community as you decide whether or not to approve us, but also ask as many questions as you want to ask about our project, because we've got two really smart people and one guy that won't stop talking here to answer your questions if we can. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Michael. Any questions from council?
Yes, I have a few. So, and I guess I also feel like if Karen has anything, I'd like to hear. If you have anything additional that we need to hear, maybe it's on a different pivot from where Mike was. Or Michael, I guess it's Michael.
It doesn't bend. Carrie Woolner with Atlas Tower. Yeah, Mike pretty well explained it. The only thing that caught me was the other Mike, mentioning that what is stealth? And we don't have a lot of options when it does come to stealthing. Mostly, yeah, we've all seen the tree. The trees have gotten a lot better. The one that Mary showed that we just recently built up in Provo, that one's pretty good. That's an 80-foot tower, so we're looking at 100. So it is sort of hard to hide a 100-foot tree. There's not too many around here, but they are looking better. And then as far as expense goes, like Mike said, it does get more expensive, and that's why you don't see as many, maybe stealth. And then a lot of jurisdictions don't necessarily want it stealth because we're so used to seeing power lines and everything else that most of the time you don't even recognize a typical cell tower. And so stealthing it might make it stand out more, right? But we have made some really neat clock towers and trees and actually really cool church steeple in Jackson Hole. But yeah, it really does increase the cost. So,
And I will freely
know.
admit that what you've shown here is light
Much
years
better.
ahead of what,
Right.
I just remember my reaction the first time driving down University Avenue, right down there by Will's Pit Stop.
yeah,
When I saw that, it's like, who are they trying to fool?
the dead trees, yeah.
Yeah, but this one looks,
And I guess I don't
Yeah.
see it as it needs to be full. It's just less.
Right,
yeah, no,
Less
no, I
pole-like.
don't think I, in my wildest dreams, thought that that was a real tree, but.
Yes.
right.
But it looked a little bit, it just didn't look good, but this actually looks, obviously the technology and the aesthetics of it have
a little
changed
better.
over time.
And we do try to find, I mean, I know myself personally, because now that I am in the industry, I look for them. So a lot of times I will even miss them. But I know I want to find a location that is discreet and not near neighborhoods or homes. So that is something that Atlas Tower takes seriously as well. It's like, what's the best property? Where are we going to be somewhat hidden or not even noticed? And that, I think this location does fairly well. I mean, we're right up against a car lot and a parking lot and open space. We are across the street from the church, but hopefully if we are a tree and have a lot of landscaping, that helps. But yeah, that's about it.
Said
Thank
the
you.
wrong name, Carrie, right?
Carrie.
Sorry.
No worries.
All right, I see our city administrator raising his hand.
And it may be helpful to have Brian jump on his interpretation on this, and we discussed something similar with staff. This tree that was shown a photo of, I drive by every day on I-15, and I personally did not notice the cell tower until it became a tree. It is
That was a
visually
pole.
in an area, there's big light poles on I-15, and there's some other things there. As soon as the limbs started being put on that, I was just like, oh, there's a new cell tower, and I hadn't registered that tower had existed
Same
prior
way.
to that. I spoke with Brian, and again, this is my personal opinion. Everybody knows where that tree is by Will's Pit Stop. I can't tell you the location of several other cell towers in Utah County, but everyone knows where that one is because it's a fake tree. I will be honest, my concern is that this will become a landmark as the fake cell tower tree in Lindon. I asked Brian, does the city council have an ability to not require the stealth or determine that a normal galvanized cell tower is blending in enough with the environment to be considered a stealth? Brian felt like you have that ability as a council to determine that. And so just throwing that out there, and Brian, maybe if you can hear that, if you can jump in and.
Yeah. Can you hear me, Adam, okay?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if you look at the definition that Mary provided, I think the focus is there, the constructed in a manner to avoid detection. And sometimes these trees are constructed in a manner to draw detection. So I do believe that our definition allows the council the discretion. I don't think we're forced to accept any specific type. I think it's within the city council's discretion to decide what best helps avoid detection. And even if that's just the tower itself, given its circumstances and its location, you look at our cell tower down at the Public Works Department. How many of you know about that tower? It's set back. It's not. It doesn't draw attention. That type of scenario is what I'm talking about. So I do think it's within the council's discretion to decide what best helps conceal. Anyway.
Can I speak to that, please?
Please do.
So we have done a couple towers, actually just last week also, city council did the same thing right here, was we'd rather just have it painted. So we have painted the towers brown or any, and I think brown is a good color just to sort of hide in the background. We've done a few here. Marriott Slater, they've asked for it to be a brown. One down in Diamond Valley, Utah, they painted it brown, and then up north, that one they're gonna ask for brown. And then down in the desert, I will look right past towers that are painted the red rock, to match red rock. And so it is true, stealthing it might almost make it more visible. So we're open to that. And I think we changed it to a tree based on the stealth requirement, so.
As far as the cost to stealth something, the degree, is this in the more economic column for stealthing, or something like a clock tower or something like that? How do you determine, besides the fact maybe somebody likes a tree?
So we typically ignore costs when we're trying to meet code compliant issues.
Okay.
I mean, just to be honest, even though it does raise the budget, typically if we had a budget where we thought we could do a regular steel pole, and now because the code requires something stealth or different. But to give you a sense of cost, it's a stealth tower, a regular tower can cost just the tower, just the steel of this height, maybe $40,000 to $70,000, depending on engineering and cost of steel and stuff like that. And the monopines are probably generally, you could just double that.
Okay.
And then occasionally we've done things like fake water silos or fake silos, or fake water tanks, or we've done some clock towers, and that, I'm just throwing generalized numbers, even though I could do some research for you, but call it 3 times.
Okay.
So like a stealth tower, a stealth clock tower might be 200,000. So it does get, it depends on what you're doing. We did something very unique in Jackson Hole, and the total end cost on that was closing on $1 million when it was done, and I don't think we'll ever do that again.
Yeah, I don't think I appreciate the efforts to make it stealth, and that does look considerably better, but I'm with the others. I mean, I would be more likely to drive by, just the fact that it's a big tree, even if I said, oh, there's a tree. It's just standing there by itself with no other trees around it. That one fact alone is...
Yeah, I don't want to stir the pot on...
It draws attention to it.
On pole cover, but my favorite, honestly, is gray, because gray tends to mostly blend with the beautiful sky.
Yeah.
And, it's a very neutral color. But in any event, we're here to get an approval because we really want to bring this infrastructure to your community. And so this aesthetic issue is entirely, your decision as council member and mayor. We're prepared to do whatever you think is best for your community.
We appreciate that. I do have a question for staff. On 200 South and about 8th East, just on the Oak Canyon property at the roundabout, those 3 towers there, can you tell us about those?
They were originally approved in, I think I put it in the staff report.
What is the height of
Here.
those?
They are currently 98 feet tall.
So that's...
The planning commission approved them to go, I think, another 20 or 30 feet taller.
Well, they were approved in 2001. It says as a 70-foot tower. Height was increased through an amended conditional use permit, I believe, last year or 2 years ago, to go to 98 feet.
And I don't think they've done that yet. I don't think they've added the increased height.
So they flew flags on those for a couple of years. It didn't last long.
They ripped to pieces very quickly.
It's on school district property. But yeah, they are, I don't know if there's 1 or 3.
There's 3.
Well, I know there's 3 poles, but I don't know if they are all 3 towers. And so
I have a comment there. That's an antiquated design. There was a time period, particularly in the 3G sort of era, where the antennas were smaller and they could be designed to be smaller and skinnier, that you would see a lot of these flagpoles and also canisters that look kind of like gigantic cigarettes. And Atlas did propose at certain sites back in that era 3 flagpoles, like a state, a county, and then a city flagpole or something like that at sites. Those sites don't really work anymore. What we're looking at in terms of antenna migration is unfortunately bigger. So if it used to be small and skinny, and then it became kind of a surfboard for a kid, now it's something more like a small canoe. I mean, the antennas they're wide, they're deep, and they're often 6 to 8 feet tall. So they don't fit inside of the design.
So Michael, is that due to the progress from a 3G, 4G, now 5G? Is that because of the technology change?
Yeah, generally speaking, across the U.S., like the 4G technology is pretty much the Ford Explorer of the world. It's the workhorse
That's
one.
what
It's
I
the one that
drive.
works well. Yeah, and it pretty much manages most of the traffic. Most 5G antennas are generally taller, but they're not necessarily bulkier. But in most applications, a 5G antenna is actually an add-on to a 4G site. 5G antennas are very specialized in terms of the way they cover. They don't go through, there's a lot of wrong information on the internet, but 5G antennas don't penetrate surfaces very well. They don't go through glass or a window or just a wall at an office as well as 4G does. But it does move a lot of data really fast in a small area. So the 5G technology is mostly an add-on where you have an extremely congested portion of your network. Just to exaggerate, 42nd in Manhattan and New York City, you've got this massive traffic interchange, and you have tons of cars and devices moving quickly through the area. 5G is a perfect solution for that. But for what we're generally doing up and down the entire Salt Lake City corridor, it's generally 4G towers, or 4G antennas, and the antennas tend to be 6.5 to 8 feet tall. They tend to be about 24 to 26 inches wide and 4.5 to 6 inches deep. They're big.
Yeah.
They're big, so they need space. The flagpole thing doesn't work for that.
This is the one right near the community center.
Can I ask, as you request for 100-foot, well, you actually would like 120, but our code stipulates 100 max. So then you've got opportunities for co-locations for 2 other entities. Are they really going to want to come in and be at a lower elevation? Is that something that's appealing to them, or are they going to be seeking also to be having their own towers perhaps? Or how do you guys commingle?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the reality is, if anyone ever comes to apply for telecommunications equipment in your municipality and they say, this is the site height we need, and it won't work at an inch lower, they're pushing the bounds of reality. There is obviously a relationship between the efficacy of the tower or the antenna and height. But what happened here was the T-Mobile engineers knew they had a problem. They knew they wanted to fix it in this area with network congestion, the lack of capacity. And their ideal height was actually 120 feet. So we've already had that conversation with them. What's the lowest height you would accept?
But you're a high man on the totem pole now, if you get approved. So what about the next 2 heads?
So we're still creating 2 more what we call RADs, which are spaces on the tower, which will be from, so T-Mobile will be from 100 feet to 90 feet. So there's a 90 to 80 and 80 to 70 feet spots available. And as the other carriers have the same problem that T-Mobile has now, and that's absolutely going to happen, they're going to have the same quagmire. Do they come to you and ask for another tower and spend a lot of money and possibly get denied? Or do they go grab those easy sites and just co-locate on the existing tower? So will that be their optimal? No, probably not. They'd probably prefer 120 feet, but it doesn't exist.
But the
And-
financial bottom line, they'd be coming out ahead because they're going to be
Yeah,
at the
it-
100 grand versus the 2 or 350 for the
It's a-
structure.
It's a sort of melding of two factors, three, cost, speed, and approvability.
Okay.
So it's really hard, it's impossible for us to say yes or no, but I can tell you this, historically since 2007, we have done some averaging of how long it takes to get a co-locator on a site, and in general, we have almost like 95% second tenants after 18 months.
Okay.
At least in the urban and suburban areas.
Okay.
So I'm quite confident that this site will
Attract
get
other-
at least one more user for sure, and I'd say in 5 years I'd be willing to bet that it would get full and the spots would be used.
I have a question. So T-Mobile will own the tower?
No, sir.
Atlas owns the tower, and then you charge them for use of that tower?
That's correct.
Okay. And then additional users down the road, Verizon and others, you would then charge them?
Correct. It's kind of like a hotel model.
Okay, sounds great.
With one twist, we are a tenant to the Alpine School District, so they're our landlord, and then we're the tenant, and then the carrier becomes our subtenant, essentially.
Does Alpine School District get additional revenue for additional
Yes.
users? Okay. Sounds good.
So there is growth for the community generally in terms of capacity for wireless plus money into the.
So
the
the
school
conditions for putting a tower in a municipality or a school district, is that statewide? Or is it different every county and city that you go to?
Actually, I would say Utah is kind of unique in its pretty aggressive efforts to try to make sure that these projects are put on municipal or community properties instead of private properties.
Okay.
In other states, sometimes this sort of type of code restriction or requirement doesn't exist. But I think you're doing it right. It makes sense that this is a community. Quite frankly, telecom should be a utility, but technically it's not. It's a private business. In the end, it is something that serves your community. It's more of a utility than a private business.
I just have a quick question for staff. With this being a conditional use permit, how often will we be revisiting something here? Okay.
Unless there's a problem that we have to.
Or complaints.
Okay.
Onto the planning commission yet? Okay. Okay.
In our staff report, I don't know if you've seen it, there are some suggestions from the city staff here. There's 5 of them. Are you familiar with those suggestions?
Sorry.
Yeah.
One of them is the tower is permitted to locate on school district property and identified. There's a variety of them there. I see that in your notes, Mary, or whoever prepared this, that would be part of what was recommended. Can you see those? There you go.
We have no objection to those.
Okay, so you're familiar with that then?
I am now. Sorry, I didn't know what you were talking about.
Okay.
Those are super easy for us to comply with. We will at least twice a year be inspecting the site, if not more. Obviously, we comply with all federal, state, and local rules, including on the environmental piece. We do a NEPA and Phase 1 report for every site, and if there was, I hope not, if there was an environmental concern, whether it be a endangered species, plant, or animal, or if there were some kind of contaminant underground or something like that, odds are we would not move forward on this site, and we would come back to you at a different location. So environmental issues are super important to us because it's the right thing to do, and also because we don't want that liability. And then we're absolutely going to bring forward a plan that meets the current code, which is TIA 222 Rev H. That's the most recent code for tall structures like towers. And quite frankly, the code is super strict and quite hard to meet in terms of quality of construction and so on. And every single site we build meets the current code, which is that code. And then I guess the last question, no, that's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do have one last thing to say, and that would be that just would like the council to understand, I am very pro-stealth at this point because I feel like this is our commercial corridor. It's not our interstate corridor. And I would like to have something, even if it is not a real tree. I'm open to what it could be, but I would like to see something that is attractive to look at, no matter how many antennas it has put on it. So I would like to still consider the fact that stealth is important to this particular council member. So.
Along those lines, you mentioned a clock tower. I've looked at a few here online. They look awesome. You guys have done a few of those?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one actually up at Traverse Mountain in Lehigh that we just finished. That's beautiful. But something to note on this one that I'm not sure if it's in these drawings or if Mary has these drawings, but we are required, or we did have landscaping and other trees around this tree. So that would help.
Yeah, I can
blend
go
it a
through
little bit.
this.
So,
That would be my
landscaping.
biggest concern, if it had some other,
right.
to sort of distract from the fact that, boy, there's a big.
Just a single tree.
Yes, just a single tree.
And same with that one in Provo that you're driving by on the freeway every morning. It's, oh, I don't know if that's ours.
This one that we saw a photo of tonight?
That one's up high off of I-15. Yes.
Like it's in the parking lot next to there's the.
It's next to a barn, yeah. So we tore down a bunch of dead trees there. So we will be planting new trees to go around that, because there were a lot of really tall, dead trees. So that's why it's really clean right now, and then we're required to plant some more trees with the landowner, so.
But for your comment, and sorry, just following up on what you said, Carrie said as well, the plans that we submitted for review for this hearing included, I believe, 17 trees.
Okay.
Yeah, around it.
So it's a pretty substantial, you know, pretty healthy landscaping budget on this one as well. So over time, it would grow into a more logical stealthing, sort of compatible with what else is there.
Yeah, I have no problems with the things that I've read, the engineering reports. Those were all, I just wanted to make sure that my fellow council members understand I'm very pro-stealth at this point, and I like your presentation, so thank you.
But that would still be considerably less than a clock tower, I'm guessing. The adding the additional trees. and
Yeah,
that.
I mean, sure. Again,
sense.
at this point, we work with staff to come up with the best proposal that would be most likely to be approved. But if you chose to deny our application, we could come back with a different design, I guess. Yeah.
Or continue.
Say it again?
I said or
thank
continue,
you. That's a
not
good point.
tonight, yeah.
I suppose the question is what stealth material or presentation would have the best context for this location? And
Well, it's an opinion, but we did debate this in the office, and I still think the stealth tree in this particular area makes the most sense. It is sort of a merging of commercial and residential, and there are some trees in the area. We'd be planting more. If the clock tower usually is more of like a retail strip mall sort of object.
I'd vote a water tower. I've said that before when we talked about over at Pioneer Park.
We've done a lot of silos on farms, but that's kind of, I don't know how compatible that is here. This is so subjective, it's really hard for us to really vet it out.
Water tower in Riverton that's very
Yeah.
attractive.
Yeah, I can pull that one up too.
And can we as a council just dictate that? I mean, it feels very arbitrary to me
Where I
that
might
we're
have
just.
liked to have a water tower, I'm still okay with the tree, because I was, that same question, I don't know,
What our place is there.
what our place is on that, so.
I'm okay with trees if they have if the tree design, if they have little friends around them.
It shows it on that plan, the 17 trees in the landscape plan.
That's one on Public Works.
This is the one on Public Works. This is Geneva Road. And
I've
that's the
driven
public
past that 1,000 times and never seen it.
Yeah.
It's not on your
It's
state
probably
street
twice, I would guess twice the distance off of Geneva as this one will be from state. So.
And painting it, I think would be better, even that one. If it was painted.
It's not a public hearing item, but I do see some public here.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And so we would welcome just some brief questions or comments. I'm assuming you may be residents that are adjacent to this.
My name's Joanne Martin. I live on 500 North. My concern is health with towers. Everything I've read and since we got the notice says that you shouldn't live within 300 to 400 meters of a cell tower. 400 meters is approximately 1,300 feet, which is a quarter mile. Mary said something about a house was only 300 feet away. I don't know which house that is, maybe one on State Street. But current studies suggest both short-term and long-term health risks within 300 to 400 meters of a cell tower. Thus, great precautions should be taken to site cell towers away from the most vulnerable segments of the population, such as children. The American Cancer Society says cell towers increase the risk of health hazards such as headaches, memory loss, congenital disabilities, and cardiovascular stress. There is a huge long list of things that can happen from being near cell towers. And I live close by. There's also a retail or real estate value that if you live within 1,500 feet, real estate values can go down 7.6%. So you've given permission for the new subdivision to go in. I'm assuming that's less than a quarter of a mile. I don't know, but there's going to be a lot of kids there. We still have 22 kids on our street, which is 500 North, and it's just a great concern for our street.
Okay, thank you. Planner Barnes, do you have any comments about what was?
There's nothing in the code regarding health issues, so we didn't specifically look at that with the applicant. This code was adopted in 2000, so it's possible there are things that have been missed as new studies have come out. It is 300 feet away from the closest residential use, but it is as close as it can be to the commercial corridor of Lindon. So the closest people around will be businesses and business patrons. I believe the closest residential use is this house right here.
And they have a child with a lot of health issues right now. And I'm 2 houses away from that, and Cindy is across the street from that house.
Does the applicant have anything to say on
I
that?
have many comments, but I'll start with the first, and it might not be what some of the community wants to hear, but the telecommunications industry is controlled by the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, which is essentially a product of federal congressional statute, and essentially the FCC so closely and so completely regulates telecommunications as an industry, in this case, based on the manufacture, the installation, and the use of telecommunication equipment, whether it be an antenna on a tower or your mobile phone, that multiple federal courts have determined that the FCC has entirely preempted this area of law. And so to make an analogy of what I mean by, or what it's meant by preemption, which is, I think in Article 10 of the US Constitution, it's an area of law where the federal government has so completely taken over the regulation of that particular thing that state and municipal governments have no say in that regulation. An analogy would be the Food and Drug Administration completely preempts the regulation of pharmaceutical medicines being sold to the public. The city of Lindon, this commission, or the state of Utah can't decide whether or not it's going to allow the sale of ibuprofen in a pharmacy. Not because it shouldn't be regulated, and not because it isn't regulated. It's just regulated by the federal government. And so this body here, this council, can no more regulate the sale of or manufacture or distribution of ibuprofen than it can regulate how these antennas and this technology is used to be in a safe manner. Not because it isn't being regulated, it's super regulated, but it's regulated by the federal government. So the folks in the audience here who are concerned about this have heartfelt concerns about this issue, but this isn't the body that they should be talking to. It's really the FCC, Federal Communications Commission in Congress, that makes these decisions. So technically it wouldn't be an appropriate thing for us to make a decision on tonight, but on the other hand, we all have First Amendment rights. We can talk about whatever we want to talk about. And so all I can say about that is that basically, I know our industry is super regulated, and it's everything that we do will be in compliance with those regulations. And there is a requirement through the FCC that the license holders continuously monitor their equipment and adapt to new code or statutes if they become more strict. And then I have a couple of common sense things to say about that. And one of the common sense things to note is that RF propagation is everywhere already. There's RF propagation, like it or not, everywhere in this municipality. And our project is actually to bring in more antennas to reduce congestion. When you have congestion, you have antennas working at their maximum load, at their maximum, possibly at their maximum legal output of wattage, because they're trying to deal with an overloaded area. What happens typically in a situation like this, where we bring antennas, new antennas into a congested place, a lot of those other antennas are actually detuned to cover less area. In other words, they're using less wattage, and they're having a sort of softer overlay through the community in that area, because they have more antennas throughout the community to provide the service that's being needed. So there is studies that say that, for instance, if you're in an area where your coverage is not great, your mobile phone actually has an amplifier in it to increase the output and input wattage. And so if you're further away from a tower, further away from an antenna, you're actually increasing the wattage that you're holding up to your head, essentially, as you use that device. Which brings me to my third comment, which is folks who are concerned about RF in their homes have choice. You can remove Wi-Fi, you can not use a mobile phone, or use a mobile phone with an earpiece. There's ways to reduce your own physical proximity to this. But there's no way to avoid it in a modern society. It's already been approved and basically rolled out across the country. And we're sitting in a place where if we had glasses that we could put on and we could see all the frequencies, we'd see a lot of colors, because it's here. This project isn't to change it. In fact, it's to improve the use and actually lower the ambient wattage of that use in this specific area. I'll stop there. Thanks.
Mayor?
Yes, please.
Comment. I so appreciate the concerns being, one of the things I hear a lot, one-on-one with people over my years on council, is this issue. I don't know if it's just because I'm a person of disability, and it makes me maybe more approachable on this. But Michael, I so appreciate your conversation about this, and because if we don't have conversation about it, we have a lot of dark shadows that make us think that there's more to it than there is. I know that sitting here, we all have our cell phones here, and there's a lot of electromagnetic field just sitting right here. This is something I can be concerned about with my own health, but that doesn't mean that I have the ability in my position as a council member to do anything other than the parameters of what are before me. I do have concerns about it. I asked some questions that were kind of more technical about what type of, G or whatever, and that's a common concern and comment that I get from some of our residents. And so I am concerned, but it doesn't mean that for me, I can answer those questions. I can solve the problems here in the seat that I sit in. And we say a lot of times with some things that we get mandated to do. Don't talk to us, please talk to your state representative. Please talk to your federal representatives. Please talk to different people. So I appreciate being able to have a conversation. And Mayor, thank you for allowing me to have a few moments with that.
Go ahead, Lynn.
My name is Cindy Packer, and I live on 500 North also. And my concern is, do we have to worry about any interference from our cable or does it cause interference with our daily lives? Cable or what am I saying? Internet cable? Does it cause any interference with our?
It does not. The slightly longer answer is that each commercial user of frequencies is required to stay within their lane, so to speak. So they have to use only the frequencies that they have been licensed by the FCC, and they're not allowed to bleed into other frequencies. So that's literally illegal. If there is an interference issue, which occasionally happens when setting up equipment, maybe there's a mistake in tuning something or whatever, the FCC and Atlas's contracts and the mobile networks contracts have a pre-agreed upon way to de-escalate and remove interference issues. If there was an just for instance, if there was an interference issue, anyone in the community can raise their hand and say to us or to the FCC, I have an interference issue. That tower went up and now I can't get over the air TV broadcast or whatever. We would immediately be required to shut down. And then we would start experimenting until we figured out what the problem was and figure out which user of frequency is causing the problem, and then they would be required to stop. So the answer is no. It's possible, but if it did happen, it would immediately be remedied.
Michael, how often do you see that as an issue, concern?
Almost never, although there was one super fascinating situation where an experimental company on the East Coast was using frequencies that were bleeding into GPS, and they were shut down and lost hundreds of millions of dollars. It happened during the Obama administration. It's an interesting story, but it's pretty rare.
Can I just share an anecdotal? When we had a garage door business for many years, and we had a facility in the Bay Area, and this was back in the 80s, and even garage doors have their own frequencies, and they have to be FCC regulated. So this is something that we were aware of, and we would get calls every once in a while, and this is before now you have these rolling million codes that come from your transmitters, but we would get a whole neighborhood, the garage doors would go up because of the Air Force would fly over and be doing something inside the planes. And so, yes, weird things have happened in years gone by, but the industry has done, the FCC has done a lot to keep people in their lanes.
That's correct.
And the individual industries have tried to make sure that they don't crowd each other, so.
All right.
And Mayor, can I just say something?
Yes, please do. This is our General Counsel Hawes.
I would just point out that in our code section in 5.07.080, we specifically require them to comply with these FCC standards. And about 3 years ago, maybe it's 4 years ago, the League of Cities and Towns and the Association of Municipal Attorneys, we all look very closely at regulation of cell towers, particularly with the rollout of the 5G technology. And there's just no question that we are preempted, as the gentleman indicated. We don't have any authority to regulate the placement of this tower under the law. And so I just wanted that to be clear. But we have adopted in our code that any tower going in has to specifically and expressly follow those standards set by the FCC. So
All right, I saw a hand by our, okay, okay. So, council, I have one last question for you. Is this specific location on the property of Alpine School District, the furthest point away from residential that you could opt to locate with them?
I wasn't involved in the site choosing. Usually we work with the landowner. The only thing, we went by there today. There is space still to go a little bit further west on the property, and I'm not sure, why they didn't, unless that's an easement right there. But
We currently
We look at setbacks.
don't have landowners' permission to present that location or a different
So
location
we'd have to go
to
back.
you. I think there was some logic to putting it in that location because it was furthest setback from the street and also wouldn't interfere with reorganizing or unnecessarily devaluing the future development of the rest of that parcel. So it's like right up against the parking spots. It's in a logical spot where it is. I don't think if we move the site 10 or 20 feet, we'd appreciably do much in terms of coming up with a different, measurement for distance from residential.
All right. Thank you. Yes.
So Kim Martin, so just a quick comment. What you depict there versus another drawing, and you have a site plan where you have the star, it appears to me the star is closer to the street, State Street, than what that is right there. So, you might want to just double check that, see the star.
This,
A little bit further west than what is depicted on that other
yeah,
drawing. So
the star
I don't know
is
why you can't approach Alpine School District, see if you can move that a little bit closer to State Street.
So that star, I've just put on, I obviously didn't go in and do the measurements and dimensions of this site. I just put a star on the approximate location. That's what we do for. And again, this arrow is just an approximate location, and we do that for every locational staff report. So
I kind of agree with what the mayor was asking. The further away you get from residential, closer to State Street might be better. And another quick question is, does Lindon City get any revenues from, through the Alpine School District for leasing this land? Because you guys are decision makers.
This would go to Alpine School District.
Yeah.
It's their property, so they would be the owners of the location.
So clearly your role in this is just, visual aesthetic to the neighborhood, right?
Yeah,
It's the authority we have.
telecommunications do have certain ability to build infrastructure within communities, so we have to sort of, like what was mentioned, kind of navigate with that as well.
So I don't know what's gonna happen in the future. This whole landscape may change with technology. The antennas may get bigger, may get smaller. You might be requested for more towers in this particular area. So I don't know how that all factors into your decision tonight. So just a couple comments.
All right. Any other comments from staff? Okay, appreciate that. Any other discussion from council on this item? All right, so this is a proposal by Atlas Tower for the 100-foot cell tower. We've discussed tonight whether to require stealth design. There's a variety of stealth options here on the Alpine School District property. Didn't sound like that the placing it in a different location than what is in the proposal as tonight was not necessarily up for as a possibility.
It would be our preference that council took a vote on the existing proposal because we have worked very hard with staff. We have engaged over many months with landowner, the school district, and we have complied with code obviously it's a conditional use permit, but that's because every telecommunication project is a conditional use permit. And I believe that we have brought to this body a project that meets the code to the best of our, well, it meets the code word for word in terms of all of the substantive and requirements to be approved. We're willing to remove the branches because that's an easy modification, but even that I would feel compelled to go back to the Alpine School District because, right, we haven't had that conversation with them. So I do think this is a good width of landscaping with 17 trees planted in the area. The location makes sense. It meets code, and it would be our request that you made a vote on this specific proposal.
Is there any science, again, I'm not knowledgeable on this, based on the fact that the co-located units would be potentially higher up on the pole versus at a lower point, that also helps with some of the frequencies being maybe?
I love your question, yes. The simplest way to answer that question is that your average router in a house broadcasts like a snow globe or a Christmas ornament, goes in all directions. Commercial use antennas don't work that way. They generally go in a 360-degree sphere in sort of an ellipsoid. So most of the energy is moving on a horizontal plane in 300, like a frisbee, like a disc. And that's because the engineers are super smart and they figured out how to propagate the energy in a horizontal plane so that they can use higher wattage at a higher height without having that wattage be within the proximity of humans. So the wattage or
So the height is an advantage to have less
very much so. The height is
affecting people at the ground level.
An analogy would be you put high tension wire, electrical wires up high for a reason. This is the same reason. So yes, height is good.
And do the trees offer any sort of a buffer that you plant?
They don't really do anything actually.
Other than visual, but
well,
okay.
they're specially designed so that the RF doesn't get interfered with by the branches, but for this discussion, they do nothing except make it look sort of like a tree.
So a little forest there around the tower. Okay. What size trees would you be looking to plant?
I can answer that question.
Okay.
So they'll be doing pinyon pine trees, and max height will be 30 feet.
They'll
And
just
that's
start out as
17
saplings,
trees.
like 2-inch caliper.
No, they're starting out with, here, let me pull up the landscaping plan.
So bring them in, dig a hole.
Planting is 10 feet tall, and that's what's required in the code. It
Starting
specifically
a little
says
bit
you
more
have to start at
established.
10.
Established, okay.
Uh-huh.
Sounds good.
And then height at maturity is 30 feet.
All right.
Okay.
All right, council.
I guess my question would be before a motion would be, are we comfortable? Do we make a motion, I guess, or do we, based on a tree or based on we want something more?
Based on a cell tower on the property at this point.
I like the tree with the
With the forest,
with
with
the
the little mini.
accompanying trees,
Yeah.
the fellow trees.
So could I possibly make a potential motion and we see where that goes, Mayor? Or is that what we should try?
Well, I think the motion here is stealth with the tree and with the trees surrounding it. I think that is.
Correct, I just didn't know if we wanted to attempt to amend it. So I will, because I'm okay where it goes, and I will honor however the vote goes, and we need to come back and tweak it a little bit. So if you don't like it, don't vote for me. I don't vote for it. So, and then we can come back and tweak it. How's that? Is that acceptable?
You have some additional conditions you.
If somebody wants that,
Okay.
then vote. Well, I'm playing my card straight on this one, and then if somebody doesn't like it, then you can vote it down. So I'm going to,
We need to close the public hearing first.
Thank you, Kathy. All right.
this one doesn't
It
have
was
a
not
public
a
hearing.
public hearing.
We did close the other public hearing,
I
but
don't
this
think
one
we
doesn't.
opened the public hearing.
This one doesn't have one.
This was not a
We-
public
Mayor
hearing.
just allowed it.
comment.
You're good. So I will move to approve the applicant's request for a conditional use permit for a 100-foot cell tower at 490 North State Street in Lindon with the following conditions, that's 1 through 5, listed in our packet right there.
All right. We thought you.
Think something was coming else.
We were so excited.
I said I'm playing it straight, and if you don't like it, then we can
We were
go from
waiting with
there.
bated breath.
No, we can go from there. So if you don't want to play it straight here, and I'm comfortable with that, I'll make it really, we can still talk, but I just want to see if we go someplace with this one. And if you don't like it, we'll talk more.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Powell. Do we have a second?
I will second that motion.
Okay, we have a second by Councilmember Broderick. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm opposed, and not for any large reasons. Maybe a few small changes, but
Could we have tweaked it?
yeah, I don't love the tree. I'm with Adam. I think we're going to become that place with the tree, the same way Universe Parkway is. But that's neither here nor there. I do have some. It is our main commercial corridor. I worry about what could be there eventually. I don't know that the school district needs, I don't know that the school district always has. I mean, if the school district were to sell that someday, we could put a third soda shop in there to go with Swig and Fizz. Or another car wash.
No.
Good news, they're in and out really fast if that's the case.
But those were my thoughts, but I'm fine with where we've ended up.
All right. Thank you for being here this evening, everyone.
Thank you. Very informative, by the way.
Enjoyed this. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
What is the timeline? What is your proposed timeline, estimated timeline on this?
We would hope to have this tower up by end of April, the latest, so. And we have done a lot of work already. That's where moving it would be a lot of work. Again, we've had FAA approval, we have done survey, we do a lot of preliminary research and spend a lot before even coming to this. So, yeah, so the next steps would be ordering a tower and GC bids, and we try to move it as fast as we can. Yep.
I might say to those who are concerned, to Michael's point about the way your wireless router works, if you don't like that, make sure everything is wired in your home. If you're trying to limit your exposure to the electromagnetic fields, make sure you're not using Bluetooth in your home. That helps.
American Cancer Society, it's not me.
No, I'm just saying, if you have some concerns, there are some potential remedies that might make you feel more comfortable when you sleep at night. And I know people who do this, so.
All right.
And we can pass along some info to Mary or any of you on all of the health issues too. So we don't go into it much, but we have a lot of info for you guys.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you.
Yes, happy holidays.
All right. We're just about to go into a closed session, so I'd like to call for a 5-minute recess, and then we'll come back and reconvene.
5-minute recess.
Thank you for letting us speak. You did give the letter, so we assumed it.
Classic regifting.
Yeah, it's just telecommunications have certain ability to, we're not able to really control them, but.
I mean, you can say no, there's not much else you can do.
When you see the agenda,
If they meet the code,
if it doesn't say public hearing on the item, you might have to state it during the public comment at the very beginning.
I didn't mention that, I just knew we had gotten the latest as neighbors.
like they were mentioning.
Yes, we are. You are.
Yeah, like the council, like our council,
Thanks for taking care of our mayor.
like our council shared.
Yeah, but thanks for making sure she was okay and then.
If the telecommunications entities meet what's stated code, there's, in some ways, we can't always just say, no, you can't, or you do this or that. So we can try to package it and make it as nice as they can, but.
Most properties have 2 boxes. Do you have 1 or 2, do you know?
I just have one.
What's your address?
they probably want their commercial property to be, yeah, that's valuable.
Look right.
We're right.
So do you think that, is that?
That's the box. That I think is the power box.
Okay.
That's our secondary water box right there.
Oh, Cindy. Cindy,
Whoops.
thank you for being
All over the place.
Oh,
In most applications, there's gonna be 2 boxes, and so if you don't, do you think this is power? That's the power?
This is the secondary water box.
Okay. If you'll go, if you don't have 2 boxes, they're gonna install a second one. Is what's gonna happen, and they'll try to keep that in the grass. Typically, it's just a couple feet apart. If you'll go to our city website, it's lindoncity.org. You scroll down, and right there on that sprinkler icon, you can click on that. That's gonna take you to a page with a bunch of information. So, if most applications are gonna have a residential box in the back, and that'll have your clean out filter, might have a shut-off valve, or leaving those alone. And in the front box, there's actually a video here that you can watch that shows an installation of one of these. And so, yeah, that might help.
So the filters and everything are in that front box.
Yeah, and the way they're doing this is with a Vector truck, this company that we hired, so it's gonna look like, when they come do it, it's gonna look like this as soon as the picture shows up. So they're gonna put in another box if you don't have one, and then in that front box, so there's the second residential box, they're gonna pull out what's there. The one issue, a lot of these have a spigot in that front box. And if that's in the front box location, they're gonna have to remove that.
It's after you start.
Okay, so you might be okay and be able to keep that. Then they put in a new meter section right there.
Is that what it looks like?
Yep, and it's got a little receiver. And then they put the box back in, so there's that second box. And then they cover it back up. So
there might be room, so the 3/4 inch box is down to the ground, depth is deep down in the ground, stopping ways comes over, elbows up. And so it comes up probably about 24 inches with the PVC pipe. So I'm wondering if that receiver could fit in that vertical space. It's going to get electronic read, or is it maybe digital read?
So it has a little receiver that will hold on it. Yep. And that actually has a cellular endpoint, so it's a low battery use cell, and it sends the signal, and then you'll actually be able to download an app.
Monitor the
Yeah, and you can see real-time usage.
All right, I'll have a be further research.
Come talk to me, or our public works department. Is our director.
Oh, that's
And he might be able to come out there and kind of give an estimate of what will happen. But it's gonna be a couple months before they get to your neighborhood.
Well, I was hoping it'd be in spring rather than winter.
So, well, that is gonna be a dilemma, so let's see, you're gonna be. That's probably your neighborhood.
Yeah, that 9, it's a 9.
So they're starting in 1 and 2, and then they're moving down this way, so you might be a month or 2 before they get to that area. During the winter time, they suck out all of that grass with that Vector truck, and then there's no sod available, and so that's something that, just a heads up, they're keeping track of that. and
All
they'll
right.
put it back in the summer.
We are now going in to reconvene, and thank you everyone for being here tonight. We have to thank you for your time here and say goodbye as we are going to be going into a closed session.
An hour and 15 minutes for the last one. Slated for 30 minutes.
All right, we still have one door open over there.
I'll grab it.
Thank you, Jake. All right. As we